We are on page 18b, Yudches Amud Beis, and we learned yesterday that about the story of these two ruchos, these two spirits, two neshamas that were talking to each other, and they seemed to find out, seems like one of them was able to know that someone had embarrassed the mother of one of the souls. And so the daughter who had passed away, she seemed to know that something that she had said in private seemed to have been revealed, and basically she told her friend, the other soul, that the living seemed to know already. Kvar nishma'u bein hachayim. The living see, they know, it's already heard. And what that means is that this man who slept in the cemetery had told his wife something, and then she went and made fun of the mother. What was this thing that she said? Does anyone remember what exactly was the inside information that was revealed? Yes, Ben? Ben? Ben?
Yes, the daughter is wrapped in bamboo.
Right. In a mat of reed.
Yeah, no.
A mat of reed. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, let me mute everyone again.
Is my voice okay, everybody?
No, your sound is still bad, Ben. The sound is still squeaky and breaking up. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. So this is the question that our Gemara is dealing with, is the question of how much do the deceased, how much do they know about what's going on?
Back, is it any better?
Now it sounds a little better. Yeah. I don't know how long it'll last, but yeah, now it sounds a little better. Maybe if you're too close, maybe that's the problem. I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely try to sit back and let's see if we hear it. Okay, so that the question that the Gemara is dealing with again is
the daughter was wrapped in
machatzela shalkanim, in a mat of reeds. Yes. So again, our Gemara is dealing with the question of, do the deceased know of what is going on in this world? And initially we had an argument between Reb Chia and Reb Yonasan. And Reb Yonasan was not concerned about his tzitzis. And Reb Chia was concerned, and they both brought verses. Now, I'm sorry, the Reb Yonasan brought a verse, and he seemed to prove that the dead don't know anything. And Reb Yonasan brought proofs. I think I squished up the names. Reb Yonasan brought a proof that the dead don't know anything, and Reb Chia proved him wrong and said that's not the meaning of the verse. So the verse that Reb Yonasan used was V'hamesim einam yoidim mu'uma. The dead do not know anything, and that implies the dead have zero knowledge of what's going on in the world. That was the verse of Reb Yonasan that seemed to prove his point very clearly. And the way we translated the verse later was that it doesn't mean the dead, it means the wicked. The wicked do not know anything. And the way the meaning of that, what does it mean the wicked do not know anything? So we translated it to mean that the righteous are constantly thinking about their death, and therefore they make sure to control themselves in any desire they have and make sure to do the right thing. And the wicked don't know anything means they don't take to heart about their death. They don't know anything about their death. They don't consider it, and therefore they sin. So that's the meaning of the verse. So it comes out that the verse has nothing to do with dead people knowing anything. It has to do with live people thinking about their death. That's what the verse really is talking about. Now, the Gemara then brought another discussion, and this is a discussion of the two children of Robria. And the two children of Robria seem to have different opinions. One seems to think, they wanted to know if their father is aware of what they're going through. One of the children of Robria said, how would he know? And the other one said, now Robria passed away already. So one of the kids said, well, how would their father Robria know? And the other one said that when a worm goes through when a worm eats at the body, it is felt by the dead. So you see that things that happen to their body are felt. They they have a connection with this world and they feel things. And the Gemara, the way the Gemara tells us that one of the sons of Reb Chia answered the other one. He said, well, they feel things that apply to themselves, but they won't know anything else that's going on in the world. So this was like an intermediate view. Again, there's the view that maybe they don't know anything what's going on in the world. Another view that they know everything that's going on in the world. And then there's this view that they just know about themselves. If there's something that's seems to happen with them, that there's a worm eating away at their body, that they will know. However, the knowledge of other people, even their kids, they're not going to know. For example, there's a verse that says their children will be honored and they won't know. And that fits because their children will be honored. They won't know that their kids are being honored in this world. That's that's not a contradiction. The fact that they feel what's going on with their body, that is something that they will know. Yes, Robert. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, thank you. I'm fascinated by the philosophy behind the righteous individual and the wicked individual. The righteous are alive while they're dead, and the wicked are never alive because they're wicked when they're dead or by being dead. So I guess what I'm trying to understand, and I understand the philosophy for me means that a righteous Jew, or any of us who have not proven ourselves to be wicked, and when we die, because we're honorable Jews, then we're always present. We always have that sense of neshama that we can communicate with God, or part of that, versus a wicked person, because of what they've done negatively in life, will never attain any presence with Hashem through whatever neshama they have. Is that, to me, so because, if you're gone, but you're still regarded as present, it's because of who you are and being, quote unquote, a righteous individual versus a wicked person who negates any sense of being a positive person in the world. Does that make some sense, or am I too esoteric about it?
I think it's along the right lines. I mean, it does say that because of they're alive, the righteous are alive because of their sensitivity to spirituality, and the wicked
to do the right thing in life.
And the wicked are dead because they don't have that sensitivity to spirituality.
Right.
So I think that's more or less what you were getting at.
Yeah.
Now, I will say something funny, and that is that the righteous are considered alive because they think about their death.
Exactly.
And the wicked are considered dead because they don't think about their death. So in other words, you have to either you're dead or you think about death.
Well, we all want to have a positive legacy, right? Okay, with our children, evidenced by your child sitting on your lap, all right, being close to you, you're being the role model. because when we're gone, what is left other than our children? And they carry on our quote unquote seed, whatever we want to call it, to can be good Jews in the world versus a wicked person who doesn't consider that anything like that, I would expect.
Right. Although it's not just children, it's more
No, I know, but you know, it's
children
a
includes
physical,
the mitzvahs.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
It's an all-inclusive idea of mitzvahs and spiritual benefits that we've built up, that we've invested in
Right,
all of our
right,
spiritual
right.
mitzvahs.
Could I,
But,
could I make
yeah.
a comment, please?
yes, Susan.
I don't think the wicked know that they are wicked, number one. And the other thing is, for me, people that have been close to me, even though their body goes into another, even though their body, they leave this earth, they're still close to me spiritually. And I have recognition of that. And sometimes I ask a certain person, tell me what to do, steer me in the right direction, and I get information. I'm not saying that I hear voices. I'm not saying that I have a special talent. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that for me, I watched my mother get information from her mother after she passed, and I'm just doing the same thing.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that my son has inherited that ability and that knowledge, that after I pass, I'll be able to assist if there's anything that needs, if he needs assistance.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting how we know this from very righteous people, that they're able to, so to speak, communicate with their, with the deceased, not in a prohibited manner, because there's a prohibited way of doing it, bringing up the soul of the dead, which is not allowed. But there is another way of doing it that is allowed, and that is, if the dead appear to us, or somehow going to their grave and they communicate with us, but we don't use any of the prohibited manners of bringing it up through witchcraft or through other means.
I'm not talking about.
But so in any event, my point is that there are righteous people that we know they so to speak communicate with those that have passed on. Now, so Susan, maybe you're one of those righteous people.
But I'm not saying I am.
I don't do that, but I'm impressed.
Like
in any event, I'm not sure how that works, but
anyway, the point is the wicked do not know they are wicked.
So that's an interesting question. People who, are caught, put in prison because they murdered, do they feel that they did something wrong? I don't know. You're saying they never feel guilty that they murdered someone? They don't feel they did anything wrong?
And I think the wicked are here to show us what not to. In other words, we have to have some way of measuring. I think
wickedness.
God put wicked people here for us to have some type of
direction.
What not to do a negative. It's not a negative.
Well, Susan, let me just cut you off. The point of our Gemara is not telling us if the wicked know they're wicked or not. It's just an interesting point that you're bringing up, but it's really not connected to our Gemara. Whether they know it or not, it doesn't really have it doesn't really change anything. In other words, our Gemara is not telling us if they know it or not. It's just telling us if we consider them dead or not. If the Torah considers them dead, if that's the meaning of the verse where it says the dead don't know, it means the dead don't consider their death as which would cause them to change their ways. So whether they know if they're wicked or not, I mean, that's more a question for philosophers.
It bothers me a lot. The word is bothering me.
Oh,
Torah.
I can't edit it. It's from the Torah. I can't change anything. Sorry, we're gonna have to live with it. Okay, so the Gemara told us a story, and this story seems to contradict what I just said. We just said that there's an understanding of our Gemara, at least one opinion of our Gemara, is one of the sons of Rabchia, that holds that the dead know about themselves things. Even after they pass away, they know about what's going on with their body, but they don't know anything about other people. And this story tells us that they do know what's going on with other people, and they hear what happens in the world. And this story is that one of these souls that had passed on heard about what was being spoken about in this world, and that the world found out about what she said. So they seem to know things that are happening in the world. So that seems to contradict the initial assumption of our Gemara that they only know things about themselves and not about others. So our Gemara, so we need an answer. We ended yesterday with this question. So let's start at the answer.
Rabbi Smith.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that it's when it's talking about that the dead can feel they feel pain from the worms. Okay, we don't bury our dead in mausoleums to protect the body from decaying and from worms. So it would seem that the worms is as bad as it is. It's a painful thing. It's a positive thing, because if the body does not allow to decay, the neshama is not free to leave, so to speak, and do what it has to do, because it's being held here by the body not decaying.
Right. So the fact that the soul feels the pain is part of the atonement process, which is good. Atonement is good. And so although it might be painful, and although it says it feels like being pricked with a needle, it is part of the atonement of that the soul gets when the worm crawls and eats away at the body. I believe there's a story about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, since we're getting up close to Lag BaOmer, where either him or his son, one of them said something about, you'll know that it's me that passed away when there's a worm eating through my ear because I did one small sin or something like that. There is some story, and I'd have to look it up. Maybe David, I don't know if you remember it, or maybe someone else here on the class remembers such a story about one of the great Tanoim. I think it was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, or maybe his son, with saying that he did something small, like he didn't protest when someone did something wrong. So he felt because of that, that's how they'll know that it's his body, because there's going to be some type of a insect, crawling on his ear. Anyway, in any event, so I think that touches upon what you're saying, David, that it is a benefit. It's not something bad that that person is buried and there's worms, but that it's actually a means for atonement. Okay, so we're stuck at this question because we have seen, it seems to be a contradiction. Do the dead know of what's going on with others, or do they not know? So we're going to start about 15 lines up from the bottom of the page, and the Gemara's answer is on that first word of the 15th or 16th line from the bottom. Dilma, maybe. Dilma. Dilma is the first word on the line. Again, 18b, the line that starts with the word Dilma. Dilma inish achrina shachiv. The Gemara says maybe the reason why this soul, this girl who heard what was going on in the world, maybe the reason how she knew that was not because she's aware of what's going on in the world, but maybe inish achrina shachiv, someone else died, the azil, and went va'amar lahu, and told her. So what this means is that it's possible to explain that this is not a contradiction. Really, the dead only know what's going on with their body, and the rest is all spiritual. That's what they're involved in. The spiritual, they know one little thing about their body, if it's going through pain or not. But others, they're oblivious to. However, if someone goes and tells them, then they find out about what's going on in the world. So that's the Gemara's answer, that they could find out about what's going on in the world, but under normal circumstances, they won't unless someone passes away and tells them what's going on and tells them something that happened. So the Gemara says here, it could be that someone passed away and repeated this story to the deceased. Tashima, the Gemara comes and says, let's give another proof. Come in here, come and listen. And we're going to try to bring a proof from the next story to find out, do the dead know what's going on in the world? Tashima, come in here. Does Zeiri have a mafkid zuzi? Zeiri, a name of one of the rabbis of the Talmud, he used to give over, he give money to watch gabe ush bezichte by his landlord. Ad asi v'yazil, until he came to pick it up. I'm sorry, I translated wrong. Ad asi v'yazil lebei rav, until he went and came to the base medrash, to the study hall. Shchiva, she passed away. So in other words, he let her watch it until he was going to go and come back from the yeshiva, until he went to study there for some time. By the time he came back, she had already passed away. Shchiva, she died. So now he doesn't know where the money is. He left money for her and for her to watch, and he doesn't. They don't. He wants to get it back, and she passed away. So it says, Ozer Basra Lachatzar Maves. He went after her to the Chatzar Maves, to the courtyard of death, which could be translated as the cemetery. Amar La Zuzi Heicha. And he said to her, where is the money? Amra Le, she said to him, Zil Shaklinu, go take it. Mitoise Bitsinaira Dadasha. Take it from under the hole that's that the door hinge swings on. So there's a hole in the bottom of the threshold in the ground, by the threshold, by the door, and the money is in there. Biduch Palan, in that place. Ve'ema la le'ema, and go tell Ema le'ema, go tell my mother to Shader Li, send me Misrakoi, send me my comb and send me my comb, Misrakoi, the gov side, the kochla, and some type of a in my container of makeup.
They're calling it eyeshadow.
It says tube of cosmetic paint.
Tube of cosmetic paint. Okay, like makeup. Bahade Planisa, thank you. Bahade Planisa, give it to so and so, the Asya Lamacher, who's coming tomorrow, who's going to die tomorrow. So it seems from this Gemara that that the dead know that someone is going to pass away. And they know what's going on in this world. They know that so-and-so is going to pass away. And the Gemara says that Alma Yadi, we see that they know. So the Gemara answers, Dilma, maybe Doma Kadim Umachraz Luhu. Maybe Duma, the angel who is in charge of the dead, is going to tells them in advance, so they know about people who are going to die, but they don't know anything else. They only know about who's going to die because the angel who's in charge of the dead is named. The name of the angel is Duma, and that angel announces it. So maybe that's how they know, but they don't know anything else. So again, our Gemara had initially questioned from this source that this story shows us that the deceased knows that so and so is going to pass away, and the Gemara answers that that there's an angel that is in charge of the dead, and the name of the angel is Duma, and that angel announces things, so they know about the dead who's going to be arriving, but they don't know anything else that's going on in the world. So we don't have a proof from here that that they know anything about this world. Now comes the next Gemara. Toshima. The Avua de Shmuel have a komafkedi gabe Zuzi di Yasmi. The father of Shmuel, they would deposit money of orphans by him. In other words, he was like a, he would hold their money for them, the money of the orphans. And then he passed away. Kinach nafshe, when he passed away, loihava Shmuel gabe, Shmuel was not there. And so he didn't know to ask him before he passed away, where is the money that you hold for the orphans? And so now he's stuck because he doesn't know where the money of the orphans is. Now, what did they do? The people started calling Shmuel, the son, have a kokorule bar ochel zuze diasmi. He's the son who's eating the money of the orphans. In other words, they were sort of like bad-mouthing Shmuel. Your father had all this money for the orphans, and now you're not returning it to us. Azal abasrei lechatzar mavis. So he went, and again, the way Rashi translates chatzar mavis is the cemetery. He went to the cemetery, and Amar lahu beina Abba, and he said over there to the souls, he says, I am looking for Abba. So Amrulay Abba Tuva Ika. He says there's many people who are named as Abba. Let me just mute everyone here. Okay, so there's a lot of people whose name is Abba. So he said, Amar Lahu Bina Abba Bar Abba. I need Abba, the son of Abba, because that was his father's name was also Abba. So he says, Abba Bar Abba Nami Tuva Ika. There's also a lot of Abba Bar Abbas. So Hacha Ika Hacha, there is here. Amar Lahu, he said to him, Beina Abba Bar Abba Avod Shmuel. I need Abba Bar Abba, the father of Shmuel.
Abba Bar Abba.
What is that?
He was Abba Bar Abba means he was an orphan. That his father was dead by the time he was born.
At least according to the Ashkenazic Jewry, that's the way it is. Yes. Sephardic people name their children after their, after people who are alive. But although I don't know if they name after the father.
Maybe that's the reason.
Generally, the grandfather.
Maybe that's the reason they gave him the orphan money.
So he would be, that's interesting. Very good thinking. Raymond is mentioning that the because he himself was an orphan, maybe he would have more respect for orphans' possessions, orphans' money. And very nice thought. Okay. So he's looking for his father to try to find the money. And he's, so he's asking the souls that are around. He's saying, "Could you help me find Avua de Shmuel, the father Abba bar Abba Avua de Shmuel, Abba the son of Abba, the father of Shmuel? Where is he? Heicha, where is he? Amrulay slik lemasifta derakia. Go to the academy of the heavens. That's where he is. Adahachi chazya lalevi. In the meantime, until he entered the academy of heaven, he saw Levi, the Yosef Avroi that was sitting outside. Amar Le, he said to him, "Amai Yosef Avroi, why are you sitting outside? My time alay solkas. Why aren't you entering, going up?" Amar Le, he said to him, "The Amri Li, because they said to me, Kol kihanach shani, all these years, delay slikas lemasifta de Rebbe Ofes, that you did not enter the academy of Rabbi Ofes. You insulted Rabbi Ofes by not going into his class. V'achalishte ladaite, you gave him a feeling of embarrassment, of weakness. You weakened his feelings. You hurt his feelings because you didn't enter his study. We will not let you, all those years that you missed out there and caused Rabbi Office pain, so we're not going to be able to let you into the Masifta, to the Academy of Heaven. In the meantime, his father came, and the father of Shmuel came. This is in the meantime, that this is what happened with Levi. Now the father of Shmuel came. He saw his father was crying, and smiling or laughing. So Amar Le, my time of kabachis. So he told his father, he says, he asked his father, "Why are you crying?" Amar Le de la agel ka'asis. You are, the reason I'm crying is because you are going to be coming here soon. In other words, Shmuel is going to die soon. That's why I'm crying. My time of achichas. Why are you laughing? Why are you smiling? So he says, the chashivas b'hai alma tuva. You are very honored in this world. And in other words, they have a lot of respect for you. They are very impressed with your righteousness and your scholarliness. In this world, they have a lot of respect for you. Amar Le, he said, if so, if I'm really so significant and so honored, ne'aluha lelevi. If I have credit over here, then I'd like to use it now, and I'd like to ask that Levi should be accepted in the Academy of Heaven. V'ailohu lelevi. So they elevated Levi. They brought him in, and now he asks his question to his father. Amar Le Zuzi diasmi hecha. He says, where is the money of the orphans? Amar Le zil shaklinu. Go and take it. Be amsa derechaya, on the platform that the millstone is on. Eloi v'tatoi didon. The top and the bottom is our money. Umitzi deyasmi, and the middle money is for the yesayimim, is for the orphans. So Amar Le, my taima avdesachi. He said, why did you do this? Why did you put ours on top and on the bottom and the orphans in the middle? So he said, Amar Le, ignuvi ganvi. If robbers steal it, mignavu mididan, they should steal from our money. I ochla ara Achla mididan, or if the earth eats it up, which means it mildews the money, or somehow ruins the money, it should ruin ours. And Alma, what do we see from here? The Yadi, we see from here that they know that someone is dying. We see that they know, because he said, La'agel ka'asis, you're soon going to be coming to heaven. So we see that they know. So the Gemara answers that Shmuel is different. Dilma shani Shmuel kivan dechoshiv kadmi u'machrazi. So they said Shmuel is different because since he's so respected, they announce it earlier. Penu makoy, make room for him. Okay, so that really concludes more or less these stories. The only thing is, there's two more stories that I have to tell you. And I just need about 30 seconds. Guess not. I tried to put her down. Oh boy. Okay. Anyway, so the two stories that I want to tell you is, number one, why is Shmuel's father called Avuha de Shmuel? That's one story. His father should have a name. He's just called the father of Shmuel. So it's brought down in Kabbalistic books that his father was on a journey, a business journey, and he traveled to a faraway place, and it was going to be for a long time, because in those days when you traveled far away, everything took time. And so by the time he was going to come back, I guess it was going to be a nice, maybe a year and a half. I don't know. It was for business. He was traveling for business. In any event, while he was away in this faraway place, a prostitute tried to convince the father of Shmuel to sin with her. And Shmuel said, so she handed the father of Shmuel a large sum of money. So he said, what is this for? So she said, you are going to have a very special child, and he's going to be a real respected, very highly intelligent and very righteous individual. And I would like to have this child with you. So the father of Shmuel quickly traveled back home. When he heard that, he felt that's a sign in heaven that he's going to be honored special. He's going to have a special child. And so, of course, he had nothing to do with this prostitute and didn't take her money. He ran home immediately, and he had kfitzas haderach. It says he had a miraculous fast traveled home, had relations with his wife, and then ran right back to his business deals because, he didn't want anything to fall through. He had all these business things going on. So he traveled immediately, rushed all the way back to where he was. And it was in a miraculous way. No one knew that he came home. In the meantime, his wife became pregnant, and the rabbis of the town, they assumed that she must have had an affair, because how is she pregnant? Her husband left, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, and she's pregnant. And so she must have had an affair. So they, so the rabbis punished her as a woman who, had an affair. And in any event, when the father of Shmuel, so Shmuel was born, and they thought that he might be a illegitimate child. In the meantime, the father of Shmuel came back, and told them that he had been there in the interim. He had traveled once back in the middle, and so they wanted that the son should never be thought of as an illegitimate child. So they gave him the name. They gave the father the name Avua de Shmuel, the father of Shmuel, so that everyone should know that it's his son, and there's no question about the lineage of this child Shmuel. And so that is the story of why the father was always called the father of Shmuel, so no one should ever question if he's really the father or not. And it should be automatic that everyone, it will be like a given that this is the father, and there's no question about it. So that's the story of Avua de Shmuel. Now the other story is the story of Levi. Levi did not go to he didn't attend the lectures of Rabbi Orphans. What happened? When Rebbe passed away, he wanted Rabbi Hanina to take over. The only problem was, so he passed away. Rabbi Hanina said, I can't take over. I can't take over the yeshiva because there's an older rabbi who's gonna be insulted, who really we have to let him take over. So Rabbi Orphans took over the leadership of the academy, and Rabbi Hanina wasn't gonna go to his class because really Rabbi Hanina was maybe greater in learning, or it wasn't apropos for him to go to his class. So he used to study outside. So Levi chose to, as an honor of Rabbi Hanina, knowing that Rabbi Hanina was really supposed to take over, so he chose to study with Rabbi Hanina outside, even though Rabbi Orphans was giving his lectures inside to everyone else. Levi studied with Rabbi Hanina. Anyway, when Rabbi Orphans died, then Rabbi Hanina took over, and Levi ended up going to Bavel, to Babylon, and Levi traveled there. Now, the fact that Levi did not go to the classes of Rabbi Orphans was insulted, and because of that, it affected his ability to be eligible to enter into the academy in heaven. And that's what our Gemara says, that Shmuel was, so to speak, traveling up there to speak to his father, and he saw Levi outside, not able to enter, and so he, so to speak, prayed for him, or he told him, in his merit, that Levi should be able to enter. And so that's the story of Levi being able to enter the academy of heaven. Okay, so what?
Rabbi?
Yes.
So based on the way you're telling it, it looked like Shmuel, while he was alive, went to the academy of heavens. Right, or the entrance of it or something, went to the courtyard of it. Yeah. Which would be a little bit, I guess, incredulous. So wouldn't it be more apropos to say that he may have dreamt this? So there is such an opinion. One of the commentaries learns it that way, but it's not necessarily the simple way of reading the Gemara. It doesn't. The Gemara seems to say that these tzaddikim had the ability to do things that we can't do, and they had the ability to speak to the neshamas that have passed away, and so it's possible to learn it the other way. But you're right, there is such an opinion. You're not wrong. There's definitely a way to learn it, that it's a dream, but not everyone learns it that way. Okay. So the Gemara now tries to tie things together, and it says, "Va'af Rabbi Yonasan hadarbe." Even Rabbi Yonasan retracted,
and Rabbi Yonasan was the one whose tzitzis were, his tzitzis were on top of the grave and the graves, and initially he felt the dead don't know anything, but now the Gemara says he retracted. The Amar Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Amar Reb Yonasan, Shmuel Bar Nachmani says in the name of Reb Yonasan, Minayin Lamesim Shebasaprim Zem Zeh. How do we know that the dead speak to each other? Shenemar, as it says, V'yemer Hashem Elav, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, Zoysa Aretz, this is the land, Asher Neshbati leAvraham leYitzchak leYaakov. This is the land that I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Lamar, to tell them. Now, what does that mean? To tell, Lamar, to say, to tell over. So who's he supposed to tell? My Lamar. What does it mean, Lamar, to say? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said, LeMoshe, to Moshe, Lecha Mor Lahem, go tell them, LaAvraham LeYitzchak LeYaakov, to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Shvuah Sheneshbati Lachem Kvar Ki Amtiha. The promise that I promised to you, Kvar Ki Amtiha, I have already fulfilled it, Livnechem, to your children. Or Shvuah Sheneshbati Lachem Kvar, the shvuah that I swore already to your children, Ki Amtiha Livnechem. Just 1 second, let me just. No, Kvar Ki Amtiha, okay. Kvar Ki Amtiha Livnechem, I already fulfilled it to your children. And V'isal Kadaitach Delo Yadi. Now the Gemara says, now if you're going to say that the dead don't know anything, the only things they know is maybe about their own body, but they don't know anything about others. Ki Amar Lahu, my Havi, what will it help if Moshe tells Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that the Yidden are conquering Eretz Yisrael, they are getting Eretz Yisrael? What is it going to help if he tells them that? Elamai. So they don't know anything. They're totally oblivious of what's going on in the world. So it doesn't mean much to them if the Yidden got it or not, because they don't understand anything about the world. So the Gemara says, Elamai diyadi. So what do you mean to tell me that they do know what's going on in the world? If they do know what's going on in the world, Lama li lameimar lahu. Why should Moshe tell them if they know what's going on in the world? Why should Moshe even tell them anything? So the Gemara answers that they should thank Moshe, they should show appreciation to Moshe that he took good care of them and brought them ultimately right at the edge of the land of Israel. Now, this Gemara, I must say, some of you look a little confused. There is a question on this Gemara, and I'm sure it's bothering some of you. The question is that the Gemara here seems to understand that if Moshe is able to tell them about this world, they shouldn't even be able to understand anything. If they're oblivious to this world, they shouldn't understand what he's talking about, because it means nothing to them about the land of Israel or anything physical in this world. And the previous Gemara said that people died and would tell the deceased things that happened in this world, and the Gemara seemed fine with that. So before, the Gemara seemed fine with the fact that maybe they don't initially know things of this world, but if you tell them, they'll understand it. And here the Gemara is saying that what will it help if Moshe tells them? They won't be able to relate to it. They're totally not in the realm of understanding this world. They're like, in a higher realm where they only understand spiritual matters. They don't understand anything about the physical world. So why here does the Gemara seem to be following a different understanding of of what it means that the dead wouldn't know what's going on in the world. And earlier on, the Gemara had another understanding. So the commentaries explain, at least the Maharsha explains over here, that this Gemara is explaining Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Yonasan had a very extreme view initially. His extreme view initially was that the dead know zero about the world. They will not be able to relate to anything. If you told them, the dead, that someone is dying, if they wouldn't know, they wouldn't understand that. They wouldn't be able to relate to that. They're in a spiritual realm. It's like telling, it's like maybe teaching a child trigonometry. They don't understand anything you're talking about. But the dead are in their realm of spiritual. You can't tell them anything about the person, a human dying. They don't understand that. That was the initial thought of Rabbi Yonasan. So our Gemara is proving that initial thought of Rabbi Yonasan is wrong, that they will have some ability to understand what's going on in the world. And therefore, if Moshe tells them, they will be able to understand it. And if they are able to understand it, the Gemara says, well, let's go full force. If they could understand it, then they probably know what's going on in the world on their own. They don't need Moshe. And the Gemara says, you're right. They do know what's going on in the world. And the only reason why Moshe has to tell it to them is simply to develop that relationship where they can now thank Moshe for all the good work that Moshe did. So this is the simple understanding of our Gemara seems to conclude that the dead know everything that's going on in the world. That would be the simple reading of this Gemara. Maybe
Rabbi
tomorrow
Smith.
we'll, yes.
My question is, how can they bring an example from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? Maybe those dead know what's going on in the world, but regular people don't.
Right. Well, it would, I will tell you that Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz explains this Gemara to mean that any of the dead that had a relationship with that were caring about others in this world, they, even when they die, they can have a relationship with the world. They can understand others because they cared about others in their lifetime. But those that didn't care about others in their lifetime, they actually don't have a relationship. They don't understand what's going on in the world, and they don't have such a, they don't have the same type of a understanding of the world. But these people who were caring about the world, like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, their job was to spread godliness to others, help others, connect others with Hashem. So they are able to understand this world. So along the lines of what you're saying, David, is the way Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz explains this Gemara. But there's more to say about it, but I'm going to leave it for the next, maybe tomorrow. Does anyone have any questions or any other thoughts? Yes, Kier. I can't hear you because you're muted.
Is it correct to say that the world to come is a reflection of this world?
Well,
I know Torah is,
What would that mean? That the world to come is a
well,
reflection?
meaning that things that occur in the world, let's say like a war, is in some way, in a very fine spiritual degree, has effect on on heaven, whatever. So therefore, people could pick up what's happening on the world in a much finer degree, higher degree than we know. That's all that's based on if the world to come is a reflection of this world. If it isn't, then the line of argument doesn't exist.
Yeah, no. So you're the truth is, you have a great point. Great point. And ultimately, you're asking a very good question, really. I don't know if you want to develop this into the question, but you're saying that everything that happens in the heavens, it has some type of an effect on earth. And so things that
Or the other way around.
are happening on earth, and the other, it goes both ways. Everything that happens in heavens has some type of an effect on earth, and that's why this thing happened. There was an earthquake here because in heaven, the angels did, something happened in the heavens, and therefore the way it manifested itself in the physical way is that it was, something happened on earth. And the same thing happens the opposite way, that anything that happens, dama lamaila mimcha, you should know that anything that happens above comes from our work. In other words, we cause there to be special lights that are shining in heaven because of our work here down on earth. We have an effect on the heavens. So according to, which both of these points are correct. Now, according to that, you could ask that anything that we do on earth, it has an effect on the heavens. So the heavens should be able to pick up on, what's going down on earth because they see it in the heavens. So this would be a question, how could we think that the heavens don't know what's going on here if there are spiritual changes in heavens that ultimately come about because of something that was done here on earth. So in order to answer that question, I think the answer would be that number one, even if they see things are changing in heavens and they know that it has some type of a, because of something done on earth, it could be they don't understand what's going on earth that would cause this in heaven. In other words, if they're totally oblivious to this world, then they might not know what exact sin or mitzvah, is it that's causing this in heaven? In other words, because they're oblivious to this world, they're not given that information. That would be one point. Another point is that what they understand, what affects the heavens is more mitzvahs and sins and mitzvahs, and not necessarily things that things that are going on in the world. So things that are going on in the world don't necessarily have an effect on heaven. So for example, if someone gets hurt, I don't know that has an effect on heaven. If someone does a mitzvah here, that has an effect on heaven. But what we're talking about is knowing about what's going on earth. Someone bought a new property, someone got a land of Israel. These are things that not necessarily are having an effect on heaven that they would know about. Although you could then question, what about the land of Israel? Going to the land of Israel, living in the land of Israel is a mitzvah, at least according to the Ramban, according to some opinions. And according to that, you could say, well, they'll know when the Jews are in Israel. It would seem that they would know, that mitzvah. According to this logic, that they'll know about mitzvahs. Then you could say, well, they obviously will know that the Jews went into Israel because they're getting a mitzvah from being from dwelling in Israel, and they'll feel it in heaven. So that would be a good question on my answer. And so according to the conclusion of our Gemara, it's not such a strong question because the Gemara's conclusion is they do know what's going on automatically. And because they know what's going on automatically, because they have a connection with the world, they know what's going on in the world. They know that we went to Israel. The only reason why Moses was supposed to tell it to them was that they should give appreciation to Moshe, meaning they really do know. So it sort of fits with what you're saying. So if you want to take this idea, I guess what you could say is that this Gemara that mentions that if they are able to have a understanding of this world, they obviously will know what's going on. Maybe that what you're saying is actually the meaning of this Gemara. In other words, your explanation actually helps us. I think it's a beautiful point, and I'm so glad you brought it up because it really answers a question that was bothering me. So it's really nice that you said this, because what was bothering me earlier was our Gemara is saying that if they know what's going on in the world, why should Moshe tell them? Why should Moshe have to tell them what's going on. They know what's going on. But you could really divide that in two. You could say they can understand what's going on in the world, but they don't necessarily know what's going on in the world, meaning they have a understanding, they can relate to what's going on in the world, but they, you could theoretically divide this into two parts. But according to the way you're explaining it is once they have a understanding of what's going on in the world, and they can relate to it, so automatically they'll be able to connect. Oh, this is that special light that's happening here. It must be from what someone is doing in the world. And that's why we're feeling this light, because we can connect it now to what happened in the world. And we can connect it to the mitzvah that was done in the world. And therefore the Gemara says it's automatic. If they can have a relationship with the world, they'll automatically know this because of the change in the heavens that was affected by the acts of what someone did on earth. And therefore the Gemara concludes this conclusion that it was only lachzuke leitivusa to give a appreciation to Moshe. So it's a very nice point, Kier. I like it a lot. Thank you for bringing
Abraham, by the way.
mentioning it.
That's my name. That's my secular name. Abraham.
Abraham. Okay, Abraham. I sort of take advantage of when the name is written right in front of my eyes.
Yeah. Should be Abraham.
It's easy to just call you, but okay, I'll try to remember. Okay, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this class. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. It was